All right, Michelle is back. February the 1st, 2026 on a Sunday. This is going to be 16 video or part 16 of consequences. And, I'm doing what I feel compelled to do. I know that I am being listened to, however, but I can care less if I'm not. And not that I'm, that's just a figure of speech. I do care. Otherwise, why would I be spending all this time now? Come on. And see, and that's what we're lacking a lot of times. We sometimes we're so literal that we lack the ability to understand what's being said and understand what's being taught. Because with me and several others, thousands of us, maybe millions of us, we're all reading the same type of literature that's out there. Just like everybody, some people are into math, some are into science, some are into engineer. I'm into that spiritual component, which, really spiritual has been diluted and it has lost its meaning. But basically, it's about, I'm into not so much about how I look, how I sound, whether I'm attractive enough, whether I'm masculine enough or feminine. I'm looking at, okay, what's really going on inside of me. I know what's important to me is what's going on inside of me. That energy of who I am, what I am, and why I am. What's going on with that? And the importance of recognizing how your thoughts can destroy you, literally, figuratively, and metaphorically. So I attempt, as with others, to just come on in. Control my narrative is what what I advocate for. Is people to control your narrative, put something out for your children to discover at some point in the near distant future. Leave your legacy for your children. Download some of the videos. You make sure you download the videos and put it on a external drive if you can, and see if in the distant future it can be uploaded where where your children, descendants, family, friends can come to the conclusion as to why certain things happened. And the question of, it's going to be a similar question of, what happened to the dinosaurs? What happened to the Neanderthals? It's going to be the same thing with this particular reality we are all facing. I'm saying on the whole planet, 10 billion plus of us, almost. I think it's almost 10 billion. The question is going to say, well, gosh, what happened to those people? Like what happened with Rome. It took, over a course of time, Rome destroyed itself. Atlantics, Mu. And so the patterns continue. The patterns will continue. Whereas we're going to, in the future, our distant ancestors are going to ask, our distant descendants are going to ask, okay, what happened to those people and why did this happen? And again, the history that's continually being erased, distorted, altered, it's not gonna hold up. Okay, because we're ushering towards the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Okay, so figure it out. That's my point. So yeah, let me see what it has. What they have in a lot of these books are not true, sadly. But you can put two and two together and figure out why Rome fell. Of course it was a slow fall. Yeah, I can remember I think we were being taught this in school, and it was just. But then keep in mind, it was not 10 billion people. Okay. And what we have now is unsustainable. So we are interfering in the cycle of procreation of human beings. So I told you about the conveyor belt theory. We are just overproducing. And you can see it in a manufacturing plant. If you continue to go churning out stuff, eventually the entropy will take over. Okay? And thus, that's it, you're going to have to do, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to kind of, what we've been doing is, instead of stepping back and asking the question, what is it says is from a closed thermodynamic system. It's not available to do the work. It's a measure of the disorder, randomness in a closed system. I mean, our scientists ought to be sounding the alarm. Eventually, resources are going to run out. And how are these people going to feed themselves? And nobody wants to talk about how we can genetically create substance and food. Nobody wants to do that. They rather continue to eat certain types of foods that are constantly being mixed with chemicals to give that illusion that we are eating healthy. And I told you about the with the population, that the cycle of procreation is so out of control because it's not being done naturally. What do I mean by not being done naturally? A lot of the women are not giving birth through the vaginal canal or the birth canal. Yeah, the birth canal, sorry. And even that's dangerous. There's no safeguards with that, as it were. Everything's C-section now, or manipulation in somehow, where in some countries, hear me carefully, are attempting to develop a birth canal on men, on biological men. That has happened, and I can guarantee it continues. And then now what they're doing is they're attempting to do it outside of the biological woman. Created on their own, outside the biological woman, claiming that we don't need, whereas they are attempting to wipe out the biological woman. And that is not possible. But what can happen is when biological women separate and essentially disappear, but they're still there. They disappear essentially. Guess who's going to get wiped out? The biological men. Okay, but nobody's thinking about that. So here we go. When I deconstructed, and this is back in the 80s and 90s, and I completely reevaluated who I was, what I was, and I asked all those questions. I meditated on it. I sat in silence on it. Whereas, okay, I know it's natural how I feel and what I think about. I know that I'm working with logical, rational, and reasonable thinking. I know my sexuality is not the whole picture. And I kept asking that. Okay, yeah, I'm a biological female, attracted to other biological females. Now what? And so that's when things started opening up for me, because I was prepared for it. I was ready for it. And I know that that's only a small portion of who I am, what I am, and why I am. We are energy, ladies and gentlemen. We are energy. And we are to use who we are physically to learn, to understand each other, evolve. It's very simple what we are required to do to be genuine human beings in the true sense. And it's about universal love. Okay, it's about universal love, and that we are all inclusive. We are dividing ourselves intentionally. It's a commodity driven. So if I can sell my body, if I can sell my sexuality, if I can sell my gender, so many people are so degenerate and desperate, to matter. They're desperate to create these false personas and pretending to be happy, get on these cell phones and smile, like, because I know people, like, I know people, I've dealt with people who are miserable in person. Complete misery. I can feel that energy of misery, and they attempt to project that on me, whereas I stop it completely. I stop it, and then and it's painful to when people are projecting on you when you have nothing at all to do with their situation, not at all. But then the next day or so, or next whatever, when this person is in front of people, they're smiling, they're so happy, these fake personas that people have been able to create via these social media platforms is, we are the best performers I think any planet has ever seen, pretending to be happy and just smiling big, and even on the but if I had not dealt with the experience of that those fake personas personally, I would probably attempt to blame myself and say, okay, what did I miss? What did I miss? I didn't miss a goddamn thing. I just put two and two together and realized it was a fake persona. So that means that individuals, or those individuals, have to deal with that. They have to deal with the consequences of these fake personas that they have. They're not happy. They're miserable. They're desperate. And as soon as you say such things to them, you're going to immediately get blowback. So make sure you're safe around all of this. Make sure you're safe. And do not allow people to come back at you, because they're miserable. I can pick that up right away. And so that's why I'm skilled. Okay, by the way, I'm skilled. I know what I'm doing. And I can pick it up right away when somebody is just pure, it's a self-hatred. And there's a self-hatred because they have a false persona. If they just dissect into that and say, okay, why did I create this false persona in the first place? And be willing to dismantle it. Step by step by step by step. Dismantle it. And say, okay, what caused me to blah, 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 blah. For example, like I said, the big topic now is sexuality. Right? And identities and this and that and the other. Well, it needs to be addressed. So if you call yourself a lesbian, dissect, dismantle, and ask yourself, okay, who, what, when, where, why, how, what if, okay, and be able to come out of that, which I did, with more joy, happiness, and ever. To know that, first of all, my love, the desire for sexual intimacy with the biological woman, that's just only a small part of who I am, what I am, and why I am. And it's beautiful. And it's beautiful to want to love. I think it's beautiful to see the love between two women. I think it's beautiful to see the love between two men. And I'm less likely seeing the beauty of the man and the woman together. But hey, those are my preferences. That's what I prefer. And then when these couples realize, okay, I don't need to be bringing any more children into this world. I don't need to be breeding animals and, trying to keep up with this persona, these fake personas on these social media platforms. It's fake. These people are bringing children into the world because it's trending. But wait till they have to take care of these children. What if something happens to them? The gravy train is drying up. It's drying up. So as a social media influencer, the income is going to dry up. It will dry up. That ought to have been logical, because you have these social media platforms who are pushing a certain agenda and they're using you to do it. And you call yourself an influencer because you get these checks every month. You're like a paid, what's that? I mean, it's no different than being a paid prostitute, actually, being paid for your services. But don't be so offended by that. Be able to take on the most criminal knowing of what's going on in the background, as well as the positive. You can't just assume that these criminal negative entities in the background are not doing something so despicable. I mean, God, I'm not surprised by they've released a certain file. We know what files these are. I'm not surprised what's in there, and I don't know why anybody else is. We're dealing with criminal negative energy, misogynistic, degenerate, deplorable, deviant behaviors and actions, and it's been around. It's been in politics, it's been in entertainment, it's been in Hollywood, and especially religion. Especially religion. So consider the deconstruction, reconstruction, re-examining of your life as a necessity. It has to be done. But you still have free will. And like I said, I know a lot of you, however you identify, if you had not done the work that I'm suggesting, I know you're miserable. I know you're miserable. I know you're not happy. But I'm doing everything in my power to help you. And I enjoy helping people. I love people. But I know where I end and where others begin. And it has to begin with you, from within. Save yourself first. Trust me. I will be back.